thank you for letting this one come forward. We held our last Northern Parish Forum meeting at the Ravenstonedale Community Heritage Centre. So it seems like an obvious thing to be able to bring that forward as an item of best practice and celebrate what they've done at the centre there. So I've twisted the arm of the parish clerk in Ravenstonedale, Scott Thornley, who's very kindly said he'll come on and talk about the evolution of the centre. And it's especially kind of him because he's not been there right from day dot. So he's had to run around a little bit and get some backstory about the centre. And you know how it is really a thriving community asset now, but it hasn't always been, and it's been down to collaborative work really between the parish, between the community, the parish council, and also outside funders. I think the Yorkshire Dales National Park have also been quite supportive in what they're doing there. So I will hand straight over to I can't actually see Scott, but I'll hand over to Scott.
Yeah, is there, Libby? So
and perhaps come in at the end for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Libby. We'll hand over to you, Scott, if that's okay.
Thanks, Chair. I'm obviously Scott Thornley from Ravenstonedale Parish Council. As Libby's just said, I haven't been with the Parish Council since the day we took over the what was the former United Reformed Church High Chapel in Ravenstonedale. Bit of background: the chapel was built in 1736. It is a Grade 2 listed building, and it closed as a place of worship in 2006. At that point, the Parish Council thought it would be a good idea to continue to use the building in some way, and held a public meeting in November 2006, which was very, very well attended. About 50 members of the public turned up to that meeting, and there seemed to be support for the parish obtaining a lease on the centre at the time. 2 further meetings were held, and the parish received a £3,000 donation from an anonymous member of the public, a resident of the parish, which was agreed to cover the first year's running costs. 4 years later, after much negotiation with the North West Synod, the Parish Council actually bought the building and the graveyard for the princely sum of £1,000 in 2010. There was some frustration, as I understand it, in the community about how long that had taken. But I think, as we all know, the wheels of local government turn slowly. So, you know, these things had to be done properly. They had to be done right. And you know, in the end, we got there and we purchased a centre for £1,000. At that point, the Parish Council decided to set up a management committee to look after the interests of the community in terms of how the centre would be used. They had an inaugural meeting in July 2011, at which a chair was elected, and that person is still the chair of that committee today. She's been there right from the start. They obviously hold regular meetings, prepare their own accounts, and those are reported to the Parish Council every year. Parish Council is obviously still the owner of the building. The management committee look after it on a day-to-day basis. Since we purchased the centre, we've done quite an enormous amount of work, really. Again, I can't take credit for it because I wasn't involved at this time, but I came in right at the end of the largest piece of work being done, which was a 2-storey extension to the building to provide much needed modern toilet facilities, including 2 disabled facilities, one upstairs and one downstairs. The heating system that was in the building when we purchased it was first installed in 1895 and needed complete replacement. We've done a few other things to the building as well. We now have fibre to the premises broadband, courtesy of Barn, and we have that free of charge from them as a community asset. We get that free of charge. We've installed a Hive heating system. So I don't know how many of you actually have parish halls or community centres, but the inconvenience of somebody having to go to the property to switch the heating on an hour or 2 hours before anybody wants to use the place is something that can be an annoyance. So we've had a Hive heating system installed. The heating can be controlled remotely. Nobody has to visit the centre. It can just be switched on from a mobile phone and switched off again after the activity has taken place. Much of the work that we've done has been funded by grants. Over £125,000 has been raised in grant funding by my predecessor, and you know, a lot of that was spent on the extension to the building. There is still work to do. We know that the roof needs replacing. We know that the ceiling will need some repair after the roof is replaced. And so that there's much more money to raise. We've had money from the old Eden District Council. We've had some money from the Sustainable Development Fund. We may come looking for more in the near future. We're now working with Peter Reynolds, who's the Building Conservation Officer at Yorkshire Dales. Unfortunately, the render that was put on the outside of the building was cement render and not lime mortar. So that all has to come back off because it's causing problems with the structure of the building and with damp. So yeah, we've got a project going now with Peter Reynolds to look at the conservation of the building as a heritage asset. The centre is still managed by the management committee. They are now a community interest company, and we're about to enter into a long-term lease agreement with the management committee, whereby the parish council will be the landlords of the building, as the owners of the building, responsible for maintenance of the building and the grounds. And the management committee will be the tenants, and they'll be responsible for the day-to-day running of the centre, taking bookings, paying for heating, water, etc. We're doing this to ensure that we can secure the centre as a community facility well into the future, long after I stopped being the clerk to Ravenstonedale Parish Council. As I say, we purchased the centre in 2010 for £1,000. Just as a reference point, we currently have the centre insured for valued for insurance purposes at £815,000, which is a significant increase in value, and that is a community asset. It's owned by the parish council on behalf of the community. And it is a community asset, and we try to work closely with the community to ensure that everything that's happening at the centre is community-based, community-led, what the community want, and you know, hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that for many years to come. So yeah, it was just to share that with you, really. I don't really have a lot more to say unless anybody has any questions.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Scott. And great to hear a real success story in terms of how a building like this can be used in a sort of more modern context, and some really interesting and positive stuff.